and path, and swiftly attain the state of Vajradhara. Okay, let's do the four limitless contemplation. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Semjen damje dewatang dewe jutang denpa jujig, dungal tang dungal chichu tang trawa juchik, dungal mepe dewa tampatang mindra wajuchik, nearing chaktang ni tang trawe tanong chempo la nepa juchik. So, sorry, let's go there. So today we're going to carry on with that, with our thing, if I were a Buddha, how would I behave? But I'm pleased to see you, Karen, because you made me think quite differently about my talk last week, so I'm glad you're there. And a couple of people couldn't be there today, but it doesn't matter. I thought I was going to do...
No, I'm going to be very quick because we don't have electricity.
Okay.
So can I just give my 2 cents?
Please,
quickly. I'm going to switch off the video because now you've seen me and now you don't. Okay. Oh, it's off in any case. So, okay. You know that when you do, I was thinking also of what I said to you, and I apologize if I really did hurt you because I think I did.
You didn't
I felt something. Okay, but I'm happy I got you to think or differently. And I'll tell you why I zoned out. It took me a couple of days to realize as well.
Yep.
I do the aspiration prayer of Samantabhadra every day.
Right.
And it's in English, of course. And I know you once gave a talk on it. But anyway, what I realized was that we are... I'm so bad. I'm not eloquent. We have a certain conception of meanings of words. So consciousness, we say we're consciousness because we are awake, and we don't know what awake is, and we don't know what aware is. So let's take that away for the moment. If we're unconscious, then what is it? We've either been knocked out by anesthetic, or we've fallen and are concussed and knocked our head, and we are now unconscious. But in fact, according to the prayer of Samantabhadra, because I'm not even going to use any of the words of ignorance, or we are not in Rigpa, or we are not aware of our Buddha nature, which is there, we, in fact, are unconscious, all of us. Me, you, every single person here is unconscious. So we need to become conscious. It's that simple. It's a matter of a word. So if we drop out of being unconscious, almost like as we are zombies, floating around in the darkness of samsara, in this dark unconscious state, then if we are aware, now I'm using the word aware of it, and can actually say, aha, I am unconscious, then we become conscious. And when one is conscious, it becomes a new habit. Then automatically, I'm going to now use the word aware and awake, and we have our Buddha nature. That's what I wanted to say to you.
Bobby, that is exactly what I was trying to say. I was taking it out of the illumination of Dajjal Rinpoche's words. I always like to use the masters, but you are 100% correct. It's what I'm teaching on both groups right now. If for 1 minute, just to mute yourself, if for 1 minute you could just awaken, just realize, oh my God, I'm unconscious, then you're there. And let me just tell you before you pop off or whatever, I wanted this to be the last session of this particular series, but what I realized was there's too many valuable things to actually teach on it, and I'll rather teach it much, much slower, because your comment wasn't the only one. I'll tell you what else I got. And then next week, we could do questions and answers and comments and finish off the teaching of this. But it's really important to apply this topic of, if I were a Buddha, how would I behave? And I've been doing it in my own life every single day. So I didn't realize when I was doing this how deeply this subject resonated with me and has made me really so aware of my own conduct in difficult situations. And I have difficult situations every day. Last week, I think I had a really difficult week. I really had people who got me, they just got me. Not everybody, of course, but a few got me, because they don't listen, they don't hear, and they just go on with all their stuff. And it's really difficult. But then I've said, how would a Buddha behave? Okay, and what I realized by your comment and another comment, someone in the evening group watched that talk of mine last week, and I was in heaven's land, just letting it all come through me and as happy as a lark and everything. This girl said to me, Melanie, I listened to your If I Were a Buddha, and what I realized was that I know nothing. Okay, she said, I know nothing. So I said, you know what? I definitely don't want to teach so that you know nothing. But your comment and Karen's comment have to make me really think that basically, if you were a Buddha, the art of a Buddha mind has total compassion, but it also has skillful means. And what does skillful means mean? It means you never give more than people can absorb. Okay, so even if it's flowing from you, if you can see that people aren't absorbing it, then and you carry on, then that's not skillful means. So it's really important, and I'm grateful always, Karen. We've just done the 37 practices of a bodhisattva, and one of them is that if people run any critique on you or negative to you in any way, you have to see it as a wonderful, wonderful blessing, and it changes whatever you need to change. And that's how I see everything. Even the compliments I get, oh, I loved your teaching and things, I just see it as a blessing, but I never attach to it in any way, which is really important both in counseling and in teaching. So I really think that it's so important, this conduct of a Buddha, and I don't want to miss one of Dajjal Rinpoche's brilliant insights and Alan Wallace's delivery of it, because it's really a treasure. It's a treasure. Exactly what Karen is saying is exactly what Dajjal Rinpoche gave to his small group of people in his one-on-one thing. Now, we haven't got lamas who gives us instructions on a one-on-one level. So we've got to take these things and really read them. And what I wanted to say was, when we were doing the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, I was thinking to myself, sometimes I'm reading a prayer that I've been doing for absolute ages, and suddenly it resonates me. And I think that is when you go from unconscious to realizing, and then you really understand it. So let me take the story of King Janaka and Lakshman to start with, and I think it's really a beautiful story, even if you've heard it before. Once upon a time, there was a famous king called Janaka. He was at once a king, a saint, a scholar, and a great teacher. Though he was a wealthy and powerful king, he still maintained his great yogic practice with great devotion. Janaka had 4 beautiful daughters whom he had married to the 4 sons of a neighboring king. One day Ram, one of the sons, came to visit with his younger brother Lakshman. The 2 brothers came to learn the wisdom of the great teacher who was now their father-in-law. Lakshman was young, and though he had aspirations to become a great yogi himself, he knew little of the world. Upon arriving at the palace, his expectations of King Janaka were dashed. He had looked forward to experiencing the austere life of a monk, a seeker of truth. Instead of what they found was a stunning palace surrounded by lush fruit trees. King Janaka greeted them himself, seated on a golden throne. When Lakshman saw this luxury, he asked himself, why is this father-in-law of mine known throughout the land as a sage, an ascetic, living amid the same riches as any other king? How can he consider himself a saint? Lakshman had no answer to such questions, and they continued to bother him over the following days as Janaka entertained the brothers with dancing girls, sumptuous feasts, and games. Soon Lakshman's mind became so distracted by the many pleasures in Janaka's palace that he hardly heard a word the king had to say to him, and he began to wonder if this was the proper way to live after all. Janaka quickly noticed the situation, and with his enlightened mind, he really understood immediately what the young man was going through. When Lakshman was alone, Janaka approached him and said, Lakshman, have you seen my palace yet? Indeed, I have, sir, said Lakshman. It's the most amazing place I've ever seen. Well, I would like you to see it again, he said. Lakshman saw no point in touring the palace again, but he wished to honor any request of the king, so he agreed. Janaka handed Lakshman a cup brimming with coconut oil, very precious oil. Would you please carry this for me while we walk through the palace? Of course, sir, said Lakshman, although this seemed like a strange request. It is extremely important that you do not even spill a single drop of this oil. Now follow me. Nervously, Lakshman held the cup in both hands and did his best to follow the king. The oil quivered on the lip of the cup, the slightest jarring, and it would spill. The king took him through the royal gardens around the pool of lotus blossom, but Lakshman's eyes were fixed on the cup as his feet carefully felt each step. They crossed the palace kitchen where the beguiling aromas of cardamom and coriander enveloped them, but Lakshman might as well have been noseless. A troop of dancing girls passed them. The girls had golden skin and perfumes, even more fragrant than the kitchen, but all Lakshman knew was someone had passed, and that nearly made him lose his balance. At last they ended up where they started. So, Lakshman, said King Janaka, what was the most delightful thing you have encountered in my palace? To be honest, sir, said Lakshman, I was concentrating so hard on the cup of oil I didn't really notice anything. I'm sorry. Don't there, Janaka, smiling. That is how I live all the time. The cup of oil is always in my palm, and I am very careful not to spill it. The cup is my true awakened nature, filled to the brim with everything I need, and is entrusted to my care. The cup is all I can afford to dwell on, whether I'm in a monastery or a palace. Then Lakshman's eyes glittered with understanding, and he felt his body filled with love. Now that's a very good story to really understand, because if you look at that and what we're talking about, it's like you don't dare take your mind off pristine awareness, your true nature. You don't take your mind off it, no matter what you're doing in this temporary transient place. You don't take it off. You are aware of it all the time. As you are answering, you are aware. Eventually, you don't have to be aware because it's absolutely automatic and spontaneous. But in the beginning, you need to carry it inside you, just like never to spill a drop, so that you never, just what we did in the Bodhisattva prayer, you never just answer without just allowing a spaciousness that needs to flow through you. Because when you need an answer, what I've realized is that that answer is always there. If you are holding that pristine awareness, if you are awake, if you are, that's just what Karen said, when you change from unconscious to conscious, suddenly you have cognizance, which is knowing, and knowing knows how to behave. So this one person I was dealing with was absolutely, I felt frantic because I thought, what am I going to do? This person is just not getting it in any way. And then I just sat there and I said, what would a Buddha say? What would an awakened being say? An awakened being would probably allow her to go blah, 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 blah with all her stuff. And then when the time was absolutely right, the right time, not before me trying to explain it in a different way, at that right moment, what was coming through me will strike her. So it's a very interesting thing if you can all understand it. And I want to open it because I want to go over some of the points I was making, but very slowly, very carefully, and very simply. And I'm going to stop after every few sentences to check you are with me, or to ask or to comment. You must ask. Doesn't matter if you think your particular question is not of the highest level. I don't care about the highest level. I want your question so that you can actually do this in your life. That's what I'm doing this year. So anyone want to say about what I've said or about the King Janaka story? And I'm going to just go very, very briefly over what we were doing last time and then go on. There's too many precious things here. Anyone want to say, ask, please? Don't be shy. Your own hardships, your own stuff. It's really important that you understand that. Gail, come on, you're always the open one. David, you're always the open one. I'll find out about your thing you wrote about. Gail's there, so we can ask her as well. David wanted to know in the beginning if those wheel things were ready to send out.
I'll say something.
Please, Nick, lovely.
So I think we've also got to be aware at the same time of the fine line between our own deluded mind and the thoughts that come from that, and then the thoughts that arise from, or the awareness that arises from the true nature of mind. Because I mean, just speaking in my own life, you know, sometimes I might have a thought about something which I think is coming from a good place or coming from awareness, but then if I investigate it, I actually realize it's coming. You can't trust your thoughts. You know, you can't actually trust your thoughts. So it's this very fine line between thinking or trying to be something. So saying, okay, what would a Buddha do, for example? Thinking of the answer and then trying to replicate that versus sort of dropping in and feeling it. It's very difficult. I mean, it's just something I've just noticed in my own life. So I just wanted to mention that.
I think that's so valuable because I think that it's so important that we understand that this doesn't happen overnight. Okay, it's that you've got to use. We're coming to Dajjal Rinpoche's word called familiarization. Please put that in your notes or in your papers or in your fridge or whatever, that word familiarization. Never let the familiarization fade, even when you make a mistake with people. And trust me, I make millions of mistakes with people, you know, especially with my own husband, Nicola. You know, I'm trying to apply that in my very own, you know, not to be impatient, but not being like a good girl or a good bodhisattva. I hate that because that's false, you know. I'm just trying to ponder What is this remark about? I'm trying to see it with discriminating wisdom. And if you see it with discriminating wisdom, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at how come I have created this? What am I meant to learn? Because as soon as you understand the wisdoms and you start incorporating them, every single word that anyone says to you, is something you've created. And you have to actually have to take it and allow your real awareness to go through. And I know exactly what you're saying. And in the beginning it is. If anyone wants the will set up to be printed, please send me your email address. Okay, so David, there's your answer to that. Okay, that's a good point, Nick. Anyone else?
Can I jump in again?
Please, go to Gail after you. Yeah, please.
To Nicola, what happens is we have to stop the thinking. Mel's done that before, not to attach to the thought. So if you have a thought, then don't, I'm saying me now, if we have a thought, is it right, is it wrong? And Mel ponders, or we analyze and we rip it apart, then we are attaching ourselves to the thought.
We are, but I've got to butt in. I've got to butt in.
Oh, I love it, using my words. Okay.
No, it's so important because you know what? What you're saying is 100% true, except that I sometimes read these great masters like Tulku Urchin Rinpoche always says, he says, no thoughts, get yourself into a thoughtless situation. But then many of the masters tell you about your wonderful enlightened thoughts. So how do I get to teach? I really take things, I ponder them, and I suppose you could call pondering thinking, but it's a deep thought about a Dharma subject. So I don't want to say thoughtless. I want to say pointless thoughts that we have all day, like what should I do with this and where should I go with this and where's my next money and I'm feeling sick. Those thoughts are really useless, but the pondering thoughts are very valuable. I just need to say that because I've really thought about that a lot, how you get to that point. Carry on, Carl. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
I also know in one, I think it was the golden letters or whatever,
Yes.
stopping the thoughts with a pet. You remember?
Yeah.
Because I'm talking thoughts in general, like we lie awake, well, not me, because I don't sleep. So I lie awake daytime, nighttime, and that's my best time because there are no thoughts. But as soon as we get thoughts, it leads to another, and then that becomes overcrowding. So I'll say to Nicola, if your first thought, and we all know this, is probably intuitive, if it's not impulsive, then you know it is the right thought.
Definitely.
And it can never be a wrong thought because you'll learn from that thought. That's all I want to say.
Very interesting. Just mute yourself when you do, otherwise the video doesn't go well. Listen, what I want to say is what you're saying is 100% correct. But I want to say to all of you that if I didn't ponder, you wouldn't have lots of varied talks and lectures so I think we do have to discern because it's so interesting. One master says, no thoughts, and another master says, let your thoughts be. Just go past them, go through them. And I think La Milena does it so beautifully because she says like this. She says, she puts her hand like this. And then she goes, can you all see me? So no, first she puts her hand and she says, look at your hand and see whether see what you are seeing over there. And if you look at your hand, you're seeing this finger's this. I'm seeing my arthritic fingers when I'm focusing on the fingers. Okay. She says, now open your fingers and see what you see. Should you see the gap and the space in between the fingers? So like with your thoughts, it's very beautiful, because when your thoughts are there, you see through them, and you see that they all are just from the essence. They're all the pure expression of the essence. Even if you hear them as bad or see them as bad, if you just let them be, they go. So it's very interesting, that, because I have to think. I definitely have to think, but I try and limit my human conceptual thinking to an absolute minimum if I can. But my deep thinking and my pondering is how I come to the conclusions of everything, how it's able to flow through me. So it's very interesting, like Abby, with you, with the work you do, it's a very intellectual life, a mind thing, dependent on the brain. And you know what? The brain is irrelevant to the nature of mind, because the brain is situated in a different place to the nature of mind. So when people have got dementia, or when they are physically handicapped with their brain, they still are able to bring out wise words, which is something you need to think about. But I just want to go back to the couple of things I was saying last week, so it's clear. One page of stuff, I did it very, very briefly. So we have to become familiar with pristine awareness, our true nature. Why? So that we can rest in open awareness. Now I know you all hear those words, yes, 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 in open awareness, but the next part that he says is so important. Devoid of our usual activity. That's your sentence, your key sentence. Write it. We rest in open awareness, devoid of our usual activity. It's a non-activity, because that's how you reach the conduct of a Buddha, because pristine awareness doesn't have causes and conditions. Your mind has causes and conditions. It's dependent on the brain. It's dependent on your education. It's dependent on all those sort of things. Pristine awareness has no causes and conditions. It's just always there. And what I was saying last week is, you can get to it in two ways, and you choose the way you get to it. So either you get to it with intense study, explanations, volumes, sutras, tantras, debating, investigating. You investigate the mind. You find out that, that your human conceptual mind is situated near the lungs, and your true nature of mind is situated in the heart. They're not even situated in the same place. So you investigate, and then when you've investigated over a long period of time, like these monks, when you see them debating, and then you become convicted. You have a conviction in, oh, this is emptiness, not empty, emptiness, full of possibility. This is emptiness. And when you have that conviction from all your reading, studying, debating, and everything, then you move to meditation and practice to experience it. Now, if you want to do it that way, it's fine. I can't study, but I can't do it that way. I want a direct throughway, thoroughfare. I can't go round this and into there. It drives me dilly. Okay. But that first way is your external way of getting there. Remember that. That's the external way, through studying volumes and reading. A lot of these great masters, they first do that and then they go on to the second way. But you know, we don't have that kind of time, we don't have that access, we don't have all the sutras, we don't have all of those kind of things, you know, to go through. Because the sutras, when the Buddha taught them, he taught about all the particular things in the sutras, about everything in life he taught about in the sutras. So they study them. But the internal way is the second way. The internal way, you put it into practice. So first, a lot of people do it with shamatha, calm abiding. What do? You could do shamatha with an object, you could do shamatha without an object. It drives me crazy because I like to just let everything be, but that's the training, with or without an object. So when a thought comes, you bring the mind back to the breath, or you bring the mind back to the object, or you bring the mind back to nothingness. You do shamatha. Then you do vipassana, which is, where is the mind? What is the mind? Does it have a color? Does it have a space? Where is it situated? What is it? Does it create? Blah, 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 blah. You go on and on and on with those two. If you are going further than those two, this is what I'm trying to say, then you do the deity practice. What is the deity practice? It's not a practice of Tara. It's a practice of, here is emptiness. Now I create the deity out of emptiness. So what you're doing is you're doing pure creation. Pure creation. Instead of all the garbage that we create, you're creating pure stuff, pure sound, pure everything. And then when you're finished, you're dissolving it back into the emptiness. So it's called creation and completion. And it teaches you the same as all those other methods. But if even that you might have already done, or you might still do that, then when you go to the top of the range, then you go on to the two practices of trekchor and togal. And these are pure experience, no theory. Trekchor means cutting through everything of the mind. So you don't care what your mind is doing, you're cutting straight through to the sky. So here I've got my garden. Today is this beautiful blue sky. And then there's all the plants and all the flowers and all the everything is pretty beautiful, but I'm going with trekchor right to the blue sky of my mind. I'm not getting distracted by, this plant is getting hot in the sun. This is beautiful. This is ugly. I must take it out. I'm not getting distracted. I'm cutting through right through to the nature of my mind. As I told you, it's like when you've got fiddlesticks and then the fiddlesticks are tight and then you go zhook and they all fall. You just cut through into everything. And then togal, so you in the pristine awareness. Togal is when you start to see the true creation. So what is coming out in pure form out of the essence, you see it visually through these two eyes, not through an inner eye, through what they call the kati channel into the eyes, into the space, and you actually see it. You see the awareness, you see the bindus out of which everything creates, the beautiful colored rings. You see everything in the togal. You see it directly, so there's no mistake. Those that don't do it will see that in the bardo and be able to recognize it, so there's no mistake in the bardo. But if you want to do it before, if you're lucky enough to have a master who teaches it, you've got to have, then you do it before and you start seeing it. And then what happens from that is everything starts changing in your life. It's a direct experience. We get to the source of our mind. And last week, I was talking to you that Dajjum Rinpoche called it draw war law. Draw war law, which he said that was the wrathful aspect, draw war law. And he said, all you have to know is it has two defining characteristics: luminosity and cognizance, knowing. Cognizance is knowing. Luminosity is the pure expression. That's it, okay? So we know that out of our essence, which is Dharmakaya, comes this pure, beautiful creation. It's always pure, and then it dissolves afterwards. So just what Karen was saying in the beginning, if we see these luminous self-appearances, if we see them as pure, because the essence is pure, then if we see, hear, feel them as ugly, nasty, or impure, then we aren't in touch with our pristine awareness. We're only in touch with our human mind, the conceptual human mind. So if you are critically evaluating me and I see it in an ugly way, then I'm not in touch with my true nature of mind. I'm not knowing that this is my creation, that I am learning to have discriminating awareness, discerning wisdom. That's what I'm learning. Ask me, tell me, because that's how a Buddha is. A Buddha sees everything as it really is, not with their human mind, okay? Luminous, empty, like dream. And so a Buddha behaves in a different way because he sees it differently. Even if you're being an animal and you being ugly, he sees you in a different way. He sees you as pure and beautiful because he knows you are pure and beautiful. Then he behaves in a completely different way. So we're trying to familiarize ourselves with this, to change the way we see the world and familiarize ourselves with this. And then we don't contaminate this beautiful illumination. We don't contaminate it with grasping, clinging, analyzing, judging, have negative emotions about what's happening. And then these creative displays release themselves and go back into emptiness. That's it. Please, Abby, go for it.
So I understand the internal and external,
Right.
but I know that internal is the external is very difficult. But the internal, not many of us, and I know many of us actually, are not that enlightened. So how can we go straight to the deity practice? We should focus on shamatha and vipassana. I don't know. How do we go straight to the deity practice? Because
You
I
see,
do.
yeah, I think it is such an important question. Just mute yourself so we don't mess up the video. You know what? And then you can unmute when you want to argue back. Just mute and then you can unmute afterwards. You know, it's such an interesting question. How do I do it? You see, that question is answered by Lamalena when she actually says, somebody put up their hand and they said, how do I know if I'm ready for that direct experience? If I'm ready for Trekcho or I'm ready for Toggle, how do I know? She said, if it excites you, if it stirs the very essence of your being, then you are ready. Think about that. If you go like, it doesn't even stir me, I can't understand this. You know, when I was introduced to it, my whole being went into orbit, Abby. It went into orbit. I couldn't even focus. I was on retreat with Taisitu Rinpoche, and I couldn't focus or think about anything else. All the mundane things in my life went by the wayside, okay? And I just thought, all day I was thinking, oh, wow. Oh, look at all these colors. Oh, wow. The minute he gave it to me, it opened me up to be able to see. So I think until that moment when you get that introduction, it's really important to say to yourself, let me try and focus my mind. Let me try and do some shamatha. I don't care if you do 3 minutes of shamatha, that's fine. Just where you know that you can take your mind out from all the grasping, all the clinging, all the analyzing everything, just to do that. And then you can even do vipassana in the beginning when you're walking along, having a walk with yourself. You're walking somewhere and you're thinking, so where is my mind? This is what I call constructive thinking that Nicola was talking. So where actually is my mind? Which part of me responds to this and which part of me responds to that? When I'm listening to teaching, which part of me responds? You start to see that, gee whiz, I can see that some days, I always use Bern as an example because sometimes I see her, she's sitting at the edge of her chair like this. She can be exhausted, but her whole face is like alive. You could tell that from people. That's why I'd like you to have your cameras on, because then I can see how you are. I can't see from your names. And when I watch her, I know she's almost in an ecstatic state, And so when she's like that, I can see it's kind of, you just get it. So you keep your mind pretty focused on, so what is this pristine awareness? How would I get to it? And what I do a lot of is I look at the sky, because from here, I don't know if you can all see, I can see the sky from the garden. Can you see how much of the sky I can see from here? And when it's blue, I'm so excited by the blue sky, because I know that my mind is like that. It's open, it's spacious. And when I'm depressed and down, which happens a lot of times, then I just look at the sky and I think, wow, your pristine awareness can accommodate all of this. Don't get so hysterical about it, and I allow myself to sit. So it's that kind of thing, Abby, you know what I mean? And you start every day, plus you're listening to the teaching, plus you're doing the deity practice. But when you do the deity practice, if you are doing it, even if you're doing a small thing of it, okay, even if, for instance, you've got the Medicine Buddha mantra, and I'm going to teach on the Medicine Buddha in this illness thing, so you can all listen to it if you can't get there. But you know what? Even if you've got, the Medicine Buddha said, even if you've just got the mantra, and they're beautiful, they're beautiful songs of the mantra, even if you've just got the mantra and you've got that on, and you're just focusing on the blue light, you can have the Medicine Buddha in the part of you that isn't feeling so good. You can put it into your heart, into your human heart if you want. But just, he says, by the mantra, by being aware of that Medicine Buddha within you, you start healing. So every minute of your life, even when you're sitting with people and maybe you're doing legal matters and everything, but at the same time as listening to all the consultation, you're also looking at this person. And then what happens with me is I see the person, and then I start, by their behavior, I just start to see the karmic imprints that are repetitive when they tell me their life story. I can see exactly what they've come to do. And people are wasting so much time. Instead of doing it, they're busy doing a million other things. So I hope that's helpful. You just go slowly. When you're doing a proper deity practice, like Tulku Urgent says, sit before you do it. Doesn't have to be long. Sit and just be aware of the sky-like nature of your mind. So it is emptiness, but it's not just empty, it's full of possibility. And now, as you are creating this deity, you're pondering the qualities of this deity. If you want to, I don't like doing all the details of the deity. I prefer just pondering the quality of the deity. But now you are creating the deity and you are becoming this deity. And lo and behold, what happens to you at the end? You dissolve. Now, some of the masters like you to stay in that dissolution for a whole long time. But I remember Akon Rinpoche said, no, because as you get to dissolve it, you start thinking all your rubbish. Okay, so he said, I prefer you just to touch it and start the rest of the practice. And then you recreate again. You recreate, and you dissolve into emptiness. And you recreate, and you dissolve into emptiness. It's really so helpful, all of these, to get to know your pristine awareness. Questions, comments, anyone? We're going to do a beautiful meditation just now, but I want to do a little more teaching. Anybody want anything? Is it understandable to you? Please tell me. I don't want it not to be understandable. Okay. So then what we were talking about was, if you look at the word consciousness, which is what Karen started off by talking, if you look at the word consciousness, what I was saying last time is, it's very necessary. I'm going to give this to you simply as I can. You've got human conceptual consciousness. This is what your parents train you in, because we have parents who are involved in samsara and they train you. This is how your mind works. This is why you go to school. This is what you have to learn. I just remember as a child, when I got to high school maths, I never really enjoyed it. And I remember thinking, am I ever going to use this in my life? Well, of course you use some of it. But I remember my history teacher. She was this dynamic woman, okay, and she used to, before we came into the class, she used to write all the points on the board. And then she used to teach the points. And then she used to give us stories. And then you could see the history coming to life. And I did so well in history because I loved the way she taught. But half the teaching was just so boring. And so when I did geography, I thought, what do I need to know about bloody geography? What do I need with geography? What do I need with this? But what the human conceptual consciousness, it's coarse. It works with the brain. So some children are even called brainy at school. This one's a brainy child. This one's a bit dick, whatever. That's how we see it. That's your human consciousness. It's got 8 levels, okay? The 8th level of the human consciousness, all your senses and the sense objects, everything you do in your daily life with your mind. Okay, that's your human consciousness. Now, the last level goes one level deeper than the human consciousness. It's less coarse. It's more subtle. It's called the alaya or the substrate consciousness. It's more subtle than the absolute tangible human consciousness. In the alaya or the substrate are all your imprints. I'm going absolutely basic here. How do you get a karmic imprint? If I say something to you and it's nasty, there's a little karmic imprint. If I keep saying nasty things, goes to a deep karmic imprint. If I'm kind and generous, it also goes to a little karmic imprint. If I'm always kind and generous, it goes to a much deeper imprint. If I'm angry and use words that I shouldn't, there's a little imprint. Whatever you do, you think, you say, you act, gives you a karmic imprint. Sometimes it's very deep, sometimes it's very shallow. If it's very shallow, you will get something back, but it won't be anything too deep or anything like that. But if it's deep, that your anger's gone to killing a person, zhuk, goes deep in. That's why I tell a few of these leaders, they better watch their Alaya consciousness, their substrate, with all the karmic imprint, with all the people they've killed and all of that, executions and everything. I mean, that kind of thing makes deep karmic. But that level of Alaya or substrate consciousness is what produces samsara, not pure. But it can produce pure, it can be lovely things. It doesn't mean it's negative. But from that Alaya consciousness, you get samsara, only samsara. And samsara can have good or bad things, but it's pure samsara that comes from the Alaya or the substrate consciousness. That's what I was telling you about. Okay. Samsara arises. How does it arise? Because if you, let's say you abused somebody and there's quite a deep karmic imprint, you abuse them very badly, okay, that Alaya consciousness becomes the impelling consciousness of the next life. So it catapults you into an abusive family, and then you go, why did I get this family who is so abusive? Because of your Alaya consciousness registered it, became the impelling consciousness. And if we were using a deeper consciousness, we go, yay, thank you. I'm so lucky to have this abuse, because now I've got a chance to not relate to it in an ugly way, but to take it and move beyond it into know that it's temporary and transient. Well, of course, we don't as children, but as adults, usually those people will be exposed to someone who starts to say, hang on, just look at this deeply. Look at this deeply. Now, Iga, I've got to take an example of you. Okay, I have to. Sorry, is that okay? But this beautiful creature called Jadwiga Figula, who lives in Poland, okay, I just think of the way she came to me. She was riding her bike miles. She was working for United Nations in South Africa. How did she meet me? Because a friend of hers met me, and I remember her, you know, that the person who ever does my nails also remembered you, because she said you came riding in from halfway house and everything to meet me, and we just met each other and everything linked with us. You know how many people meet somebody like that? And she was a Catholic. She had her regular things. Her mother said, this is how you are a Catholic, and all these kind of things. And she just met me and clicked with me. And our journey has been ever since. You know, even when she left the country, we just kept in touch almost every day, every second day, we still do. And you know what? Her whole life changed. And she saw her whole background, which she had struggled with. She's free. She's absolutely free. And although she's still paying some of what came out of the Alaya consciousness, but she's free. When I looked at her the other day in one of the groups, I thought, oh my God, she's free because of all the work she's done, even though her life is certainly not easy in any way or any manner. But she says to me, Melanie, I feel like I've woken up. Now, you know how important that is. So I'm not saying you have to, her destiny was with me, but all of you can go to the shops and you just happen to meet somebody. You go to a wedding and you happen to sit next to someone. Happened. The Alaya consciousness creates it for you to make a change from your human consciousness to your more subtle consciousness. Do you all understand me? Right. And then the third level of consciousness, I mean, there are millions of levels, but we're just talking about the whole thing. The third level is your primordial consciousness, your pristine awareness. It's very subtle. Not even subtle like the lie. It's very subtle. There's nothing coarse. There's no causes and conditions. It just is. It's you, out of which everything in samsara, even the alaya consciousness and nirvana, both come out of the pristine awareness. So surely our mode is to get to the pristine awareness so that we can create everything, so that we can live in samsara perfectly well with our feet here, and we can live in nirvana at the same time. From the pristine awareness, from the nature of mind, the Dharmakaya, the essence, call it whatever you like, there are no names for it. And out of that, you see, everything comes out, even the alaya consciousness. And all I was trying to tell you last week, when I obviously lost a lot of people, was that Dajjal Rinpoche says that what comes out of your substrate or your alaya, it's called kunzi as well in Tibetan, is the ground of samsara, your samsara. And he says your samsara moves, but the moves is in inverted commas, with you from life to life. But he says it only gives the impression of moving. Actually, it doesn't even move. But but we think it's moving. We think we went to that life, and then we went to that life before, and then we went to that life before. We've been to lots of lives. But he says it's not even really moving. In fact, he says it's a lie that you called yourself a sentient being when he says you are a Buddha. Like Lama Lena goes, you're a tulku. You know, a tulku's a being who comes back each time to teach. She says, you tulkus, what do you mean I must find a tulku for myself? You're a tulku, she says. You know, you're a Buddha. You've got all of that, okay? But we have a lying conviction. I'm a sentient being. I'm limited. I haven't got anything. I can't do it. That's a lie. But we've told ourselves that deception for so long because we're asleep. The day we wake up and say, oh, but I am a Buddha. You know, even in the Nondra, which I still do from the Mahamudra, I still do the Nondra. And then when you do your prostrate, your taking refuge and your bodhicitta, and then after that it goes, today I've become a family, I've become a member of the family of Buddhas. Now it irritates me. So I go, I've always been a Buddha. I'm always going to be a Buddha. I always am. I haven't just joined the family of Buddhas. But why was that written? That was written for all the little sentient beings who think, oh dear, how am I going to do this? I need an explanation. I need a brain answer. I need a conceptual. So that's why they go, today I've joined the family of Buddhas. So when I read that in the Nondra, I go, no. Sorry, guys, but I was always a Buddha. I've always been a Buddha. I didn't just join it now. But it's there to help you so that today you can start a different version of your life. And then eventually it flows. So all I'm saying is, like, you know, I think I was trying to tell you, I want to tell you two things. When you watch YouTubes, okay, sometimes I'm busy watching something very important and then I look down the computer at all the YouTubes that are there and something catches my attention. You know, so many times it's written by AI. It's not a true story. And then at the end, I was so irritated about it. How can AI create this story as though it was an amazing story and it's not even true? But then I go, but what's true? Is this true? Are you true? Is our session together true? What is it? And on my new phone, becomes this thing. It always had memories of this day. I don't know how they bloody do it. They get all the years of this particular date of today. Well, anyway, now on my new phone, it goes, I think because the woman who was doing my phone showed me this round thing with all wings and everything, that if you press it, goes back to all your things that have been in the cloud for years. So it goes, your memories, supposed to be of today, but actually the memories, when I press it, it's music. And it starts showing you all the pictures, millions of pictures of my children growing up, of holidays we went on, of weddings, of occasions. It just goes through all of them. And as it goes through all of them, I'm thinking, did this really happen? How did you get so big so quickly? When did you grow up? I'm looking at me. I looked so pretty and energetic. So when I look at it, I think to myself, what's happened to you? Where did you get so tired and old from, So I look at these and I go, they're all transient. They're all impermanent. There's nothing true here. There's nothing, it's all a dream. It's all illusionary. It is so funny when you see the pictures like this going on. I don't know how they get them together. I've got no idea. This is just a dream. So when the woman of this house, I told you she left this house. She didn't want to leave this house at all, but then she went away and she died. Within 3 months, she had a heart attack and died. And I've been talking to her, I've been saying to her, this is all a dream. Now it's a temporary dream for me. Thank you very much for leaving it for me. But it's no longer for you. Your family is no longer for you. They're gone. Certain beings will come back, but why are we spending so much time on it when it's all illusionary and impermanent? Gail, you wanted to say something long ago. Please do. I'll be very happy if you do.
I was thinking that, as human beings, we tend to overthink everything.
Yeah, we do.
And we should actually just filter a lot and just be quiet within ourselves, because we overthink, we overanalyze, we intellectualize, and we actually end up confusing ourselves because it's really not that difficult.
Exactly.
That's just what I wanted to say.
It's very profound what you're saying, because if you can go home, I mean, you are at home, if you can go to your shrine and just contemplate that, just ponder it, if you can go and ponder it, then you realize, look, I'm putting all this into this, when I should put all this into, I say pristine awareness is there, but it's in your Vajra, your subtle Vajra body, deep inside you. We should be putting, whatever you're putting into samsara, you should put at least one moment of thinking about, or not thinking, but feeling your pristine awareness wherever you are.
Well, your pristine awareness is never confused.
Never confused. So if you put aside your confusion for a moment and just sit in spaciousness, then you'll be there. And what Dajjam Rinpoche says, the conduct is everything you do when not on the cushion. And he says, in this way, if you achieve stability through familiarization, when off the cushion, we release into this primordial consciousness of naked, empty awareness without contaminating. just the self-illumination that's coming out, no grasping, no clinging. So everything appears as being luminous and empty, like appearances of a dream. Then you become totally lucid, he said, in the waking state. Don't let that lucid luminosity slip away after meditation. This unwavering lucidity is what the Buddha said of his own experience. When he was asked, are you a human being? He answered, no, I am awake. No, I'm not a human being. I am awake. Okay? So, number one, if you could see all this luminous stuff coming out. And number two, if you can then see all these things that are coming out as the expression of the five wisdoms, the three kayas, Dhammakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, and the five wisdoms. So actually, everything in your life is about the five wisdoms. But if you can't see that, then it's about the five poisons and about your own, absolute consciousness, deluded consciousness, your ears, your eyes, your sight. But these same eyes can see the truth as well. It's not like an inner eye that needs to see. There's a channel that goes up you, that comes out. I don't know exactly how it's curved. And through that, if you are absolutely sitting and you look, just go and look at the sky when you have a bit of time and see what happens. See if you don't start seeing these little Vajra chains. That's your awareness. It's not just plain. It's got awareness all the time, knowing, cognizance. So I want to just read you this because I think this is really beautiful. A beautiful little story that Rachel Raymond said, and then we're going to do a meditation. She says, we are a nation of communicators, but communication doesn't always mean connection. A Buddha connects. We often don't. She said, I remember a scene in a Woody Allen movie where a group of lonely New York men sit around a table with their beers, frantically talking to each other to ease their loneliness. I remember that scene somewhere in one of his movies. Everyone talks at once. Gradually, they raise their voices and interrupt each other, trying to be heard. Finally, they become so desperate, they're actually spitting on each other in their efforts to connect to each other, but they never connect. This scene usually gets one hell of a laugh from people. I think more and more that life has become like this. She says, these days, disconnection is a habit, a way of life. If I'd not really felt how isolated I was until I spent a week in Fiji. Arriving at night and unpacking, I idly picked up the reading material left in my room by the hotel management. Under cultural differences, I mean, most of us probably wouldn't even read that in the hotel room, but she says, I was surprised to find that it is considered good manners in Fiji to acknowledge total strangers on the street. The brochure was quite specific, telling me not to be alarmed if I found myself greeted by strangers, and indeed, people would think it rude if I didn't respond in kind. The proper form was to make eye contact and acknowledge each other by nodding and smiling or by saying, boo la. In the place where I was raised in New York City, such a thing would be extremely unwise. But amused, I decided to try it. What this means in practice is this. You walk down the street to the post office to buy a stamp for a postcard. On the way, you might pass 3 or 4 people, greeting each one with a nod or a boo la and receiving their greeting. You buy your stamp, a transaction which takes only a moment. Walking back, you pass the very same people, and it's expected that you greet them again, even though you passed by only moments ago. Annoying at first, but by the end of the week, it had become second nature. Then I returned to the United States, rushing out to fill an empty refrigerator. I found myself on a busy street in California, all alone. No one made eye contact. No one greeted me. No one smiled. In some very profound way, I felt both invisible and diminished. Yet the street was totally familiar. It was my home. The Fijians are aware of a basic human law. We all influence one another. We are part of each other's reality. There's no such thing as passing someone and not acknowledging your moment of connection, not letting others know their effect on you and seeing yours on them. For Fijians, connection is natural, just the way the world is made. Here we pass each other with our lights out as ships in the night. That's quite interesting, that story. I thought it was very relevant to the Buddha nature. But I've got to say that in Africa, African black people always greet each other. It's amazing, they always greet each other. So I always greet them as well when I'm going past. I say hi or hello or whatever the case is. But isn't that a basic, beautiful principle of Buddha conduct? That you see people and in some way you go, hi, even a small little hello. I mean, with Africans, I always greet them, like when I go to the park with the dogs and the two of them standing talking, I say, hi, they go, hello, madam, how are you today? They'll do a whole conversation, which I promise you, wherever else you are in Dubai, Abigail, you can actually drop dead and they just walk over your body like in New York. But the minute I come home and they touch you and they nudge you, that is actual conduct of a Buddha. It's the touching of the heart with someone else's heart. It's, hi, I see you, I know you. And when we're talking to people, it's such a beautiful thing to look and see where they come from and not have a judgmental attitude of them. Anyway, what I was going to do was I was going to do one of Alan Wallace's long, beautiful meditations called Resting in the Flow of Pure Perception, but it's long. There isn't a lot of time, so I don't think I'm going to do it today. I think I'll do it next week. And then I'll take a lot longer because I like to have at least 15 minutes to do it, because he really gives you instructions onto how to flow in pure perception. But it's very long and we won't have time to get through it. So let's just do a little meditation. I don't know, Igor, you'll tell me if you can hear it. Okay. So just sit, everybody, remembering to make your spinal column straight. This is one of your most important things, because when your spinal column is straight, it means the energy winds are straight. And the energy winds carry your thoughts. They carry everything in your mentality. So when they are straight and unblocked, which you do in shamatha and which you do with the 7-point posture, you actually, that sitting in that energy thing is really, really, really helpful. And so it's really important that you keep your spinal column straight. As Lama Lena says, even if you're sitting on a chair, in a Maitreya posture, because Maitreya is always on a chair, not in a cross-leg position. But however you are sitting, your spinal column is straight, your chin is a little bit tucked in, unless you're looking at the sky. And if you can look at the sky, how beautiful. Your hands are one on top of each other with the thumbs touching. You really are straight in that posture, and you are breathing. And I want you all with this beautiful posture, because we don't want negative emotions to run on your energy winds. Many, many times, the reason we wake up and feel awful is because something in the channels is blocked. So I heard Lama Lena teaching on this yesterday, and she said, If you are feeling otherwise when you wake up, it's very good to just do a few Vajrasattva mantras and imagining with your spinal column straight that Vajrasattva, which is really in you, but you can imagine it above you, is flowing his energy through your channels, cleansing all the blockages, all the things that we've been sitting with. Will I have enough money? What should I do about this? Oh dear, my child is sick. Oh dear, this is happening in my life. Oh, what should I do today? Where should I go? What should happen to me? Just as you breathe into the spaciousness of your essence. It's absolute emptiness, full of possibilities, full of awareness, full of luminosity, full of the self-appearances. So as you breathe in, you realize that there is enough space in your nature of mind for everything that you are going through. It is very important that you breathe into the spaciousness of your pure mind. And when you breathe out everything you're holding on to, all the balloons. Open your hands so that the balloons can fly up into the spaciousness of your mind and sit in it. Today, just pondering or realizing how open and pure your mind is, and how all these things will disappear like memories, like dreams, like illusions. Everything just goes in. All the problems you are having can fit into the spaciousness of your mind, because your pristine awareness has cognizance, which means you know why you are in a particular situation. The particular situation you are in is to bring forward from the alaya consciousness the imprint that you created, and be able to resolve it, allow it to unfold without feeling persecuted, sorry for yourself. Just allow it to unfold and watch how it gets taken care of by itself without you intervening. Once you know, it takes care of it. Once you are fathoming, analyzing, judging, working out, doing all hard efforts, you don't know. Just feel that knowing in everything in your being. See it as open, spacious, blue in color, emptiness, cognizance, luminosity. Feel it. It's yours. Always has been, always will be, is always there. When in doubt, just go to the spacious, empty, beautiful, pristine awareness, knowing. And it will all resolve itself through you. You'll just know. when you're in the middle of working, cooking, serving, looking after grandkids, looking after kids, when you're in the middle of doing it, just stop for 1 minute, straighten the spinal column, and just familiarize yourself. Just keep being in touch all day. And as soon as you do that 1 moment of in touchness, everything will change absolutely beautifully. So let's just dedicate her, and then I'll answer anything anyone wants to say. Through this merit, if there is any, may all beings attain omniscience, may all obscurations fall away from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. On the ocean of samsara, may all beings be freed, especially those ones I keep thinking in Iran, the thousands of people that have been shot and maimed and injured and all kinds of things. And they're doing it to really attempt for freedom. And I pray that they can get that freedom and that their deaths will not have been in vain. And that through understanding just a little bit of the temporary nature, we're all in the right place at the right time. And through that, we dedicate the merit of this teaching to that. Sonam diye tamche zipane topne nepe dranam pamshene jegana jibala tropaye sipe sole doa dro warsho.